You have an interesting setup going.
I know.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course, anything for you.
Yeah, no, but seriously though, like, it's it's cool. I was like driving here earlier, and I was like, man, I'm really excited to talk to Lauryn. Like, I was like, and there was definitely like a certain anxiety when I did the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming here and I was like, man, I really don't have any anxiety like going to talk to Lauryn. Like, this
I remember in LA we had that like the night we were gonna like all go to the airport, like that last night in LA. We were just talking like the entire night.
Right.
It's like, dang, how'd that happen?
I forgot about that.
Dang.
That was an interesting. LA was an interesting trip.
Definitely.
I feel like we definitely. I grew up a lot in LA. I don't know about you. But
oh yeah. I think I definitely got more clarity on like reality and like life, and, like how it's not just like in your head. So, it was a great trip. I really liked it because like I felt like an adult there. You know, like that was my first instance of like, oh, this is what it means to like cook your own food. Like, there's no dining hall here, so yeah, it was fun.
You felt that way in LA more than you did when you went to Germany?
Yeah, because I stayed both times. I stayed with a host family. So like my host parents, like especially the time I was there for a whole year, they like what they do. They cooked for me. Like I mean, I helped out when I did, like but like I never had to think about like what's for dinner, like like they were gonna eat, so I was gonna eat whatever they ate.
Right.
And then the same thing in for Dartmouth when we went to Berlin, they gave us like stipends. So we had the stipend to like eat lunch and dinner.
Okay.
And then I think they gave the host families money for like 1 or 2 meals too. So it was like sometimes my host mom would just give me the money that they gave them, or sometimes it would be like, okay, I'm just gonna make you breakfast, and that's gonna be
Right.
So it was, but it was. It's so funny, like back then, like I was still kind of like vegan or vegetarian, like I was still trying to figure out what I was like, my diet was. So I was like, I don't really know what I'm gonna have for breakfast because I don't really want eggs because that's like not vegan.
Jeez, that's a rough lifestyle.
I was like, I don't know what I ended up eating. I think I just ate like Frosted Flakes, like for breakfast every single day for 3 months. Like and it got to the point where it's like I just didn't want to burden her anymore because she was like, as long as she said, and I didn't tell her I was vegan. I was just trying to figure it out, so I didn't want to label it.
Right.
And I was like, I eat pretty much everything. And she was like, what do you like for breakfast? And like Germans, they don't eat breakfast like we do. Like there's no pancakes.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, they eat like boiled eggs, like cold cuts, like maybe like bread, like very like it's like not, it's cold breakfast. It's not like a hot breakfast.
Okay.
So I don't like, they call it muesli in Germany, like their cereal kind of thing. So I was like, oh, this grocery store has Frosted Flakes. I'll eat that. I like that. And it was good for like 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks turned into like 2.5 months. So, but yeah, I ate that. I think I ate that, and I don't know if I had like oat milk or almond milk or regular milk. Like maybe I had regular milk, and I was like, that would be the only like like vegan thing that I consumed. So.
Right.
But yeah, that was fun.
Was there ever any like fear for you, like going abroad for that year?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't fear as like how will I survive or whatever, or like even homesickness wasn't a real concern for me. It was more like will I like it, or like the host family part, like that was the part, like, and did I tell you I got kicked out of my host family?
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
What?
Still to this day I do not know.
Okay.
Like literally, so okay, this is a situation. I didn't get my host family placement until after I was already in Germany. We had a month of language camp with everybody from the program.
Okay.
While I was there, I found out my host placement. So they had a daughter that was doing the exchange coming to America.
Coming to the U.S.
So I guess they were still looking for a lot of host families for us, which is why we got it late. And they kind of like pleaded with them because their daughter was away. They were like, you have an open room, like just house her, it'll be fun, exchange. And I was literally like, okay. So but I didn't know about any of this until after I got there. So literally, like, you can like preference. So I was like, I don't want a smoking family. Like, I don't like nicotine smoke. Like, I don't like that stuff. So
is that like big there or no? Like
smoking is bigger. I mean, I feel like there's a resurgence back in the U.S. now, like with younger people.
Right.
But like,
it's kind of cool.
I think it's disgusting.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Maybe it looks aesthetically cool, but like when you smell that, like, my olfactory senses are just like, no, let's not do that. But anyway, I was placed with them. Went back home. The mom is not German. She's like from, I can't even, like Macedonia or something like that, somewhere like that. And the dad is German. So their daughter was in Kansas. They're like, oh, it's gonna be so fun. Keep in mind, their daughter's 13. I'm 18. There's a little bit of a age difference there in terms of like things I'm interested in versus things she was interested in. And so the mom was like, she was an extreme smoker. Like, this girl was like going outside to the patio like 2-3 times a day, like smoking. Like, to me, that's like a lot. And so and when she gets more stressed, she starts smoking more. So she would try to like invite me to like the girl's house, like, or not the house, like her friend's house. So like her daughter's friends' houses and stuff like that.
They're like 13-year-olds.
Yeah, I know. They're like that young. I'm like, you guys are like freshmen, sophomores in high school. Like, here I am. I'm in college technically.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, how are you? That's nice. But also like, I don't make friends that way. Like, I'm a very closed off person. Like, until I like get familiar with you, get comfortable, then I start like coming out of my shell. So it was very like dry, and I guess she just felt like I was rejecting her by when I say her, the mom, like rejecting her by not becoming friends with her daughter's friends. And then like the dad had work, so she didn't work. So the dad would come home late, and so I would come home, the mom would already be home. And like when you're in a different country and you're translating everything in your head nonstop, like you get this fatigue that's so intense. So I would go home, sleep it off, like take a fat nap from like 3 to like 6, wake up and come out just for dinner. And I guess she felt like, looking back on it now, she probably felt like, oh, she doesn't like me. She only comes out like when he gets home, like he only likes her. Like, so she ended up like having this big blow up where she locked herself in her room, only like came out. She didn't even come out. Like the dad would come in, like try to talk to her, reason with her, and she's like, no, I don't like her. Say these things in German, come back out, and basically like, I want her to go on. I want her to leave. So we had this like, this was it was like the whole weekend. It was so awkward. And I would just sit there and we'd be sitting on the couch like watching. He likes soccer, so we'd be having soccer up there, just sitting there like this, and she's just like screaming or whatever. And then so that last day of the weekend, like Sunday, we call her Betreuerin, which is like the woman who's like overseeing us, like our representative. That's the liaison between the host family, me, and the program CBY. So she came. We had this whole like round table talk, and I really still didn't understand. I was like, I haven't done anything. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Now I didn't really like her because she kept smoking all the time, and the more angry she got, the more she smoked, and so it was just a lot. So she was like, basically the lady was like, okay, how can we resolve this issue? And the mom was like, I want her gone.
Yeah, that's the only way.
I was like, okay. So I stayed with her, like the Betreuerin. I stayed with her and her husband. They were all older, and so I stayed with them for like 2 weeks while she found me another host placement. And this all happened while like school was out of session. So I was like at the German high school, and nobody knew about it. Like, and I was too shy and kind of like embarrassed about it to like say anything to like the friends that I made. So I didn't say anything. So I ended up doing that and then going back and then meeting my host family that I had. They found me, like they put a newspaper like article about me, I guess, and that's how they found out about me. And then so those are the people I refer to as like my host parents. And that was like, so I only stayed with the first host family for like about a month and a half. Okay. And then the rest of the time I spent with them.
But you were there for a year, right?
Yeah,
like an entire year?
Yeah, like 11 months.
What attracted you to Germany in the first place? Like I feel like when people think of learning a new language or something, it's like Spanish or like French comes to mind. But you went like German. I feel like that's an interesting language to choose.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do something different. I was taking Spanish in high school, and I did theater. So a lot of the theater kids at my high school, like they really liked a lot of like German or like Chinese. They were taking like random classes. Like one girl was taking like Japanese online. We didn't even offer it at school. I was like, okay, try hard, be that way. And so I started taking German, and at first I was like a little intimidated because I was like, will this be easy. Like, German sounds pretty hard.
Right.
And the German teacher we had, he was super cool. And he's ended up becoming one of my favorite, like, teachers in high school and kind of, like, probably in my entire life. And he basically was the one that, like, made it seem like anybody could learn German. He was like, oh, it's so easy. And once you know German, then this language, Dutch, becomes easy to understand. And this and that. So it's like, I was like, okay, then I could do it.
Right.
And so that's kind of what started my sophomore year. I kept Spanish, so I never got rid of Spanish. I just added German to, like, my schedule. And then that year that I first started learning German, in spring, we had, like, an exchange program with our partner school in Austria. And so they came to us in the fall. So I got, like, my first dose of German culture in the fall. And in the spring, we went over to them during spring break. And so that's how, like, I first started, like, my going abroad and, like, to different cultures and stuff. And that was a fun experience. And I realized, like, oh, shoot, like, when you think about it, like, the stuff in the book in the classroom and stuff, it starts becoming real life. But it clicks faster when you are actually in the environment, you know? So that was what it was. Yeah.
Interesting. Would you say there are big cultural differences between there and here? Or?
Yeah, for sure. Like, what? Yeah. They say that Americans are, like, soft. What is the term? I can't remember what the term is, but the idea is that Americans are, like, soft on the inside and hard on the outside, and Germans are hard on the outside and soft on the inside with relationships. So, like, if it comes to, like, making friends and building relationships with people, it's easy to be friendly and come up to an American, like, and have small talk and stuff like that. But it's harder to go deeper with an American. They say, like, it takes, like, you have to, like, it's very weird because a lot of Americans, like, can, like, be fake low-key. Or, like, you know, I get it. I think it depends on where in America you're at. Because I feel like here is more of a German mindset of, like, hard on the outside and soft on the inside. And, like, the tri-state. Yeah, on the East Coast. And then I think Germans, it's, like, they look, like, very intimidating. Like, you don't want to talk, not because of the nose. Not that way. Are you smiling like that?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
No, not because of. I think it's just because, like, it just seems like they're all like too cool for school, and then you get to know them, and they're like, oh, they're actually, like, super friendly and, like, super outgoing and stuff like that, or not outgoing, but, like, just super, like, approachable. And, like, I noticed too, Americans will always, you can invite yourself in America to things. Like, I'll be like, oh, can I come to that? Like, and in Germany. No, it's the opposite. I feel like America, you wait to be invited. In Germany, that's what it is. In America, you wait to be invited. In Germany, it's kind of like expected that if you want to go, you just invite yourself. And so that's what I didn't really get a grasp of while I was there. Like, I feel like if I did it again, I would have a lot of, like, closer relationships with the, like, people that I met there, like, kids my age, because I would wait for people to invite me and think that, like, oh, if I didn't get an invite, then I shouldn't come, or, like, you know, I was just very, like, in my head about it. So but those are two major things. I mean, there's so many cultural differences, but a lot of American influences in Germany, especially if you go to, like, a place like Berlin, where, like, the scene is a lot bigger, and, like, it's very much like New York in terms of, like, a clash and, like, a smorgasbord of cultures and stuff.
International city.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the New York of Europe, you know, I would say.
You think so? Wow, okay.
Like, I just feel like that's the place that people really love when it comes to Germany. Like, for, like, Berlin is it.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I always think of it, and I'm like, man, Lauren really did spend a year there in Germany and speaks fluent German, and it seems like such a far away place to me to, like, have that conception of, like, I know someone that's actually immersed, like, in that culture and so forth is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess it also gives you a certain perspective on life that a lot of people in the States don't have. Like, it's one thing to go and visit a place, but to actually go live there for a year and actually be immersed in a different culture and kind of just understand the cadence of life in, like, a new place is an experience that I imagine definitely, like, changed you in ways for sure.
Like, even now, like, I'm getting ready to go back, but like only for a week, and I'm like, dang, I don't get to do really anything.
Right.
Like I've never really vacationed there, you know. So I'm like, how is it? How do you? I'm so used to like getting so deep in immersed in cultures and stuff that like I feel like to really feel fulfilled and like have that abroad experience, like I need to take like a month off work, like like how I'm like trying to finesse it. I'm like, how can I make this work and like still not go bankrupt, you know?
Right.
Because like all the programs, like I'm very very grateful and blessed to have people that brought these opportunities to me because these programs were all through like government things or through my school. Like I didn't have to actually finance it myself. I got scholarships or like the program was designed to where like you just go for free or you just pay for your plane ticket or you just pay for, you know, whatever, like you're like just spending money. So now that like we're adults now, like kind of LA taught me that too. I'm like, you gotta pay for everything in this country. This is a scam, bro. I'm like everything. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out like how do people get immersed? Like when you go to different cultures, like you went to Morocco, like how do you get immersed in the culture? Like what do you do when you're only there for a short amount of time?
Right. I feel like it's hard to. I feel like you get like a cursory glance of everything, and so it's almost like a tease. Like I really feel like you have to go to a place twice to really enjoy it, or to really get a feel of how you want to engage with that culture. Because I can say going to Morocco for a bit, like I don't really. That was like a primer trip, and now it's like if I go back, all right, I know I want to do these certain things and like go in depth and learn more here and kind of just kind of experience different parts of the culture. I feel like it's hard to get a grasp of anything in a week per se.
Yeah.
And that's for places, people, like anything. Like you kind of have to be immersed with someone over like an extended amount of time to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's also, I think one thing being on vacation and being a tourist is like everyone is trying, or not everyone, but there is a presentation of like the best part. So we're gonna take you to all the sites that everyone wants to see when they come here, and we're gonna like be really nice and so forth. And so I don't even feel like vacations give you a realistic like picture of the places you go and see at all, you know. And so I mean it I guess it expands like that trip expanded my mind, just like seeing a different culture, but I don't think I really like got to I wasn't immersed in it fully, unfortunately, but it's cool.
But that's what I hate about being a tourist, though, is that like everything is prefabricated for you. Like it's almost like you're walking into a showroom or something. Like you feel like you're already being sold something, and that's what.
That was my entire trip.
Yeah, and that's what I don't want to do. Like, and thankfully, I think because I was texting you, I was like, man, I don't know where I want to go for like my PTO, and the reason why I chose Germany is because I knew I didn't have to be a tourist there. Like I could just. It was almost, it's going to be like a nostalgia trip for me, like, because I haven't been back there since, like, pre-pandemic, and even, like, I'll just be able to see how it has changed since then.
Right.
But for me and my growth as a person and as a human, like, to be back there and, like, remember, like, wow, I know how I was in this space, and, like, you know, like, the feelings and, like, the people, like, all that stuff is just going to come back up, and I'm such, like, a nostalgic simp for things like that. Like, I just know. It's going to be fun. And then Germany, I mean, Berlin too, so this is how I'm going to do it. It's very chaotic now that I think about it, but if next time I'll plan it smarter. I'm going to go to Berlin, then spend a few days, like 2 days literally in Berlin. And then the next day, go to Bonn, which is it's like on the west coast of Germany, so I'm going from east to west.
Okay.
Then, that's like a 5-hour train ride.
Okay.
It's not too bad. And then spend like 2 days there with my host family and their daughter who's about to have a baby.
Okay.
Like that's that cool. Week. Like she's due that week that I'm there. So I'm like, bro, cool. I hope they don't cancel on me. Right. And then go back to Berlin. Because the way that I booked the flight is I'm flying in and out of Berlin. Like I feel like if I did it again, I would have flown out of Frankfurt.
Okay.
spent some time with them, then going to Berlin, and then flew back. I would have flew back home out of Berlin, you know. So, but it's gonna be fun. But I was like, I want to be in Bonn, but like Berlin is like why I was like, okay, like if there was anywhere I could live in Germany, it would be Berlin. Oh yeah, for sure. It's literally it reminds me of New York. It's bigger than New York, by far, because there's a lot of suburbs to Berlin. So as a landmass, it's bigger, but as people-wise, I don't think it's as big.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think just hearing this, like, it makes remote work seem interesting and encouraging, because that is a way where you can kind of vacation for an extended amount of time in a place and actually immerse yourself in a culture. And you don't have to be off from work, and it's kind of like you kind of still have access.
You do remind me of that. I forget about remote work. That is a gem to it. I'm gonna try to finesse that. I'm hybrid now, so but I've heard of people that have gone to LA for a month and worked out of the LA office or whatever. Right. So it's definitely in my future for sure. Play my cards right. I just gotta make friends with the right people. Yeah. That's what they say.
I mean, and I feel like your company is big enough where they probably have offices around the EO world, I think.
Yeah, I think they definitely have a Berlin office. So I'm like,
that'd be dope.
Just gotta figure it out. Yeah. What are they? HR is always like, you have to report if you're working out of state for more than, I'm like, I'm not doing that one. Right. I'm not that silly. But
have to pay taxes.
I know. What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If I was just thinking, if you were to do it over again, would you still go to a boarding school?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Kennedy. I was like, I wouldn't force my kids to go to Dartmouth, because I feel like Dartmouth is a very specific cup of tea. But especially not just boarding school, but Episcopal. This is it's not. I'm not doing a promo, marketing, nothing. But that was my place. That actually is what grew me a lot. I used to be so sheltered, so literally, if it wasn't someone I knew, I wouldn't be able to do this, how we're having this conversation.
Right.
I couldn't, no. I wouldn't have conversations with strangers, not even a hello, how are you? Small talk was just not my thing at all. Mm-hmm. So.
And you are the complete opposite.
That's what people say. I mean, I still get stressed out internally, but at least I know the skill. I know how to do it. And it wasn't they're at boarding school. They're like, this is how you talk to someone. It's not that type of place. It's not for just shy people. You have to be willing to expand your horizon, but also be deep in a lot of stuff going on. You have to be able to deal with the stress of because it's busy at boarding school, because they keep your time occupied so you don't get into trouble, right? So everything is you just gotta go, there's just a clock that's constantly going, and you constantly have a schedule to keep up with. So I can only imagine my friends and I would always joke, one friend, she actually works there now, but we would joke when we graduate we're gonna go to college and then go right back to Episcopal, free food, free housing, we got everything we need. Right. So yeah, but she actually is working there teaching history, and I visited her last year. I was gonna go back in November, but work was kind of working, so
work was working.
I was like, I'm just gonna wait till my PTO. Maybe I'll visit her in the spring, early springtime, last year. But that place is just also Episcopal's right outside of DC, so it wasn't we were in the boonies anywhere. We got to go to Washington every week.
Oh, okay. That's
really
nice.
It was field trips every week.
Okay.
American, what is it? The National History Museum for African American history. We went there when it first opened. Okay. We do the inauguration every 4 years, no matter who's elected. So actually, when I toured Episcopal as an applicant, a prospective student, it was the day that the school was going to see Obama's second inauguration. So the whole school leaves. So there were no tour guides, no nothing. So we got there and they were like, we'll just give you a map of campus and you guys can just walk it around. We're like, you're going to leave the whole campus up to us? It was me, my mom, my brother, my sister. It was a whole crew. So everybody's grabbing bag lunches and here, just the hustle and bustle, because it was right as the buses were leaving. And we're just oh, wow, this everyone's just so nice. Here, holding open doors. We're like, you're holding open. I'm from Jersey. Like, if you don't run, you're gonna miss this door. It's gonna hit you in the face. So that's when I knew that was a school for me. And like, obviously, the relationships with like my teachers were like amazing, and like people that I know that if I like, again, this is me just being bad at like keeping in touch with people, but like were some of my biggest influences and could be like some of my best friends. Like if I were to be friends with like grown adults, like they were it, you know. And I think it matures you so much faster because they're not just your teacher, they're your coaches, they're your advisors, they're your dorm parents. Like you just talk to them about anything. So sometimes it gets a little too familiar. You just start talking to somebody like they're your friend. You gotta be like, okay, hold on. You are literally 15. I am literally 35. Right. Bring it back. Yeah. So you learn what teachers are like that and which teachers are like very like, you know, strict in that term. But then you also have teachers that are like so laid back. It's like, how are you actually an adult? How are you actually a teacher? Like really?
An adult is
crazy. An adult is literally. Some people was like an adult. Just big kids. Yeah. The one thing about boarding school though that I didn't like is like because in my boarding school was mad small, everybody's in your business. Yeah. Literally everybody's in your business. So everybody knows everything. Though. It's not just students. It's like the staff you talking about it. Like,
wow.
Oh yeah, you know teachers talking about it. So it's a whole thing. But I think that's how come like when I was like working with the film department, it reminded me a lot of like boarding school, like having that as a student, having that access to like the behind the curtain like stuff that's going on, like you know, it was dope.
All the drama. Yeah. It's also, I feel like it's such a unique experience because you're away from home at such a young age.
Yeah.
That you're like forced to grow up. Like I couldn't imagine not being at home with my parents at like 14.
No, like literally the main thing was like you have to problem solve for yourself. Like you don't have your homework, you don't have your homework. Like and your mom is not gonna change that. If you don't have like if you're up late, they're gonna send somebody to your room if you're a first year or second year student. But like after that, you just get cats. We call them cats. I think now they call them demerits. But like cats, demerits, basically you're gonna be in Saturday, you're gonna be inside while everybody outside having fun. Like you learn, like some people can cope with it, but some people just can't. So you learn how to grow up quick or you end up sinking, you know? It's like a sink or swim mindset. So I think that's what ended up happening for me. And because I was very mature, like when it came to like school and responsibilities and stuff, and I love routine and schedules, and that's what Episcopal provided me. I feel like it helped make me a better person overall. And then adding to the fact that it like broke me out of my shell, like my mom would be like, I would come home for breaks and stuff, and she would be like, oh my God, you can like talk to the cashier now. You can like call the doctor and make an appointment. Like, oh my gosh, she's like, it's actually doing what I wanted it to do.
Right.
So, and I just think, and also the opportunities. They're endless. Like I told you, like Germany would have never happened if it wasn't for Episcopal. Like my love for theater led to my realization that it was truly a love for film. And like we got to go to like Scotland and do the Fringe Festival and like like all that stuff. Like all that happened at Episcopal. Like so definitely highly recommend. If you're looking to apply to Episcopal High School, let me know. Literally. Yeah. No, I still think that like one day I'm gonna find a way to like go back there and work. Like, I don't know. Find a way to like be a teacher. Definitely like in the arts or in German or something. I would love to bring a film program to Episcopal, like a true film program. I don't think we have that.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it sounds it's always cool when you get to a certain point in time and you can like look back on school and be like, man, I'll speak for myself. Like I may not have absorbed everything I could have done, but it was cool to have teachers that cared. Or like cool to have teachers that were like passionate about the stuff that they do. Like even though I didn't necessarily pay attention as much as I wanted to in school, like I could always tell that our teachers were really interested in film or really interested in writing, and they were like, this is my thing and I'm here to teach it to students. And so like being at a point where you realize how that passion grows in people, and like in ourselves is really cool. And it's like, man, you know, I really could like teach at some point and help kids and whatnot as well.
Right.
And it's not like lame or anything. Like,
no.
I think at some point it's like, oh, like, you know,
it's fulfilling.
Yeah, it really is. Especially if it's stuff that you really enjoy. It's like, man, I'm sharing this I'm cultivating minds. Like, that's such a crazy thought.
Especially with independent schools teaching, because you're not like held to a specific like rubric or curriculum. Like, you have to teach this thing, you know? Like, you're not all, like, not every single class in 9th grade English is reading the same exact books. Like, there might be one book that throughout the entire semester they're all reading at the same time. Like, for us it was like Shakespeare. Like, every grade read the same Shakespeare book. But we were all taught in a different way by a different teacher with different exams, different, like, you know, so you really got to see the passionate side. Like, oh my God, this is mad random. But I remember one time talking about like how we connect the real world to what we're learning in school. When Get Out came out, I was a senior in high school. And we had this teacher, Mr. Smith. If he ever watches this, like, one of my favorite teachers at the school. Just like the laughs. But anyway, he was just one of those teachers that's like, are you really a teacher? Like, but he was also a great person. But he was just like, yeah. So anyway, we had this class that was basically, I think it was like the Harlem Renaissance. So we like looked at like the Harlem Renaissance and like through the lens of like race and culture and music and all these different things, right? So poetry. So Get Out came out and we were like, bro, we want to see Get Out, but we were all broke. These are all my black friends, by the way. Or like, you know, my people of color for the most part. And we were all like, we got to see this film, but we don't want to pay for it. And we were like, how can we make this become a Washington program experience? That's what we called, at the time, that's what we called all of our like excursions into DC, because we would go to Washington. So it all had to relate back to what you were learning in the classroom. So we were like, oh, we should get Mr. Smith to like advocate for it so we can do a Washington program thing and go to the movies and see Get Out. Because the way that worked, we left it, like class ended at 12 on Wednesdays. So every class is done at Wednesdays at 12. And you went into every week. So that's how it was. It was like Monday, Thursday, and Friday were normal days, but Tuesday and Wednesday were split up. So Tuesday, depending on your schedule, you can get out at 12, you can get out at 2, you can get out at like 1, depending on your schedule. Wednesday was 12 every day. So we were like, yes, he found a way. He made it happen for us too. And we went to the thing, and I remember seeing it. I was like, this is such a masterpiece. And, like, every time I think about that movie, I think about Episcopal, I think about that class, and I think about how he was so passionate about what we were learning about. And it was just a great time. But, yeah, like, when you see the passion in your teacher, it makes you passionate about it, too. You know, that's what German was for me. That, like, I had never seen someone so passionate about anything more than my German teacher was about German. And half the time we didn't even learn German in the classroom. That was the weird part. Like, we would go on a tangent and he would talk about like, my German teacher was like, he was definitely up there in age. He was probably like in his 60s. This dude was like in an old timers baseball league. He would like be like, guys, guess what? Here's my MVP trophy. And he would always like refer back to it, be sitting on his desk, or like he would be talking about the latest book he was reading. Like, this is like 20 minutes of class wasted on this. Or like sometimes we would be playing Beatles music videos. And when I first started taking German, it was like me and a bunch of freshman boys. Like, so I was the only girl, only black girl in the class, only black person in the class. And they would just be like, let's try to get him off track even more, right? But we loved him so much. Like, he just made it, like, it was one of my favorite classes. So, like, I don't know. I just would love to bring that back there. And, like, if I had kids, like, when I have kids, I really would advocate. I was talking to my sister, and she was like, would you, like, force them to go? Like, I'm like, no, I would never force somebody to go. But it depends. Like, you have to be ready for boarding school. Because if you're not ready for it, then it's not going to serve you any good purpose. Like, you know, so you have to see the type of student that you're dealing with and see, like, okay, are they, like, socially, emotionally equipped to handle this? And also, if they have hesitancies to going, why is it? Is it because they're afraid of what it might be, or they're actually, like, unable to deal with being away and, like, being out, like, because I think that's a real thing. Like, there were certain people that were just not built for that, you know? And it becomes a very traumatizing experience for them. Whereas other people, it's about, like me, it was about pushing me and stretching me. And so, yeah, I'm glad that happened.
How did your mom being a teacher impact like your school experience in education?
It literally was my whole experience. I mean, I think that like I definitely value school and value education as like a major deal. Like that's just a major thing in my house growing up. Like I think I'm gonna grab a pen. My mom really she like we would have to do workbooks during the summer. Like I'm not kidding you. Like it was a real thing. It was like just because school is out does not mean that learning is done.
Right.
We did workbooks in the summer, and she would date them too. She'd be like, "This is what you're doing for this week. I'm gonna check your pages." But I liked school so much, so it was never a chore for me, you know.
Right.
And I think after a while, I like realized how good I was in it, and like how I liked getting the answers right and being in class and like just being in that environment. So I ended up thriving from that. Right. But my mom was never my teacher, and she never taught at my schools, you know. Okay. So I didn't get that aspect from her. But I mean, I was a good kid. If you ask Kennedy, different story. Right. But for the most part, I think like I loved having a teacher as a mom. Like when we got off of school, she was out for work, you know. So I never really saw that, especially as a young kid. Like I never saw what it was like to have a mom that you have to wait at like for 5 or 6 to get off of work or whatever, you know. Like I would walk to her job.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I feel like as a parent, it also has to be such an interesting experience because even though you work in the field, you can't, if you don't teach your kids, you can't control or what they learn. And so as a parent, she probably had to try hard to like restrain in some cases and not like over teach and be like, all right, like I do teach.
That was scary, sorry.
No, you're good. Like I do teach, but she's also not my student, and so there has to be like a balance of like teaching but also like staying back at times as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my mom was overbearing in the teaching department. She could definitely tell what we were missing and where we would have gaps, but my mom was a type where she would go to the school if she was like, okay, there's a problem, like my daughter is being taught this or my son is being like pulled behind in this area or whatever, she would be the first, like she would not bite her tongue. Right. And because she knew exactly what was going on, like she knew as a teacher what the deal was. So I think really the main part was really just making sure that like we were treated right, you know, because you have some teachers that are just like the I'm here for the paycheck type of teachers that will tell you that to your face. Like I've had teachers that are like, I don't want to put more jerk on this, that are like, I'm only here because I want to check, you know, like, and I don't care if you learn anything or if you don't, like. And I hated those teachers. I'm like, well, why would you you could do any job in the world. Why would you set me up to fail like that? Like, and they would be like, teach the lesson or barely teach the lesson, all that stuff. So luckily there was one case where I went to Catholic school for like 3 months, like very short. That was the only time I went to Catholic school. And there I started to realize my mom took me from public school and put me in Catholic school, all of us. But I was always like in accelerated learning, so in accelerated classrooms and stuff like that. So when she took me out, I realized that what I was learning at the Catholic school was like rudimentary compared to what I was learning in public school. So, and at first she was like, no, Lauryn, you need to just give it a try. And I'm like, I'm learning phonics, like kindergarten phonics in 3rd grade. I'm like, this is silly. Like I do my homework in 2 minutes. Like I felt like I was getting frustrated because again, I need to be challenged to be like stimulated, like I need to be challenged and stimulated to feel like I'm doing something. Otherwise, like I get really impatient and I start getting antsy and stuff like that. So I ended up going back to public school, which was great. And it was a cool thing because what ended up happening was my teacher from 2nd grade had looped with our class, so she went up to 3rd grade and became our 3rd grade teacher. And I had told my mom when I was in 2nd grade, I was like, oh, Miss Williams is moving to 3rd grade. We're going to be in Miss Williams' class. She was like, that's not how it works, Lauren. Like, she just thought that I was assuming that because I was moving up that Miss Williams was moving up with us. Right. But I was like, nah, she had told us. So when my mom went back to the school to, like, re-enroll me, they were so happy that they brought me back, like, the admin. They were like, Mom, oh, my that? Like, please tell me you have my baby. Like, that's what my teacher said. That's what my mom, she's like, please tell me my baby's coming back to me. So that's what ended up happening. And my mom realized, like, oh, you were right. I was like, yeah, I know some things, even as the 8-year-old. So, yeah.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I feel like my mom wasn't overbearing in terms of education. But, like, it wasn't just my mom. Like, my grandmother was an assistant teacher for many years. Her sister also was a teacher. So it's kind of like a family thing.
Right.
I hope these are enough wings. Now that I'm looking at it, it's okay. Sure. But yeah, it'll be fine. I don't want any leftovers anyway.
I made a good amount of
mac and cheese.
Yeah, mac and cheese.
Good. So. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Do you like the fact that you didn't have a teacher as a growing up? I don't know. I always
teacher as a parent.
Yeah, yeah, teacher as a parent.
Sure, but I had a coach as a parent.
Your dad was your coach?
At some point in my
life,
yeah. But even, so sports played like a big role in my life, and my dad. So he coached my AAU basketball team when I was. I don't remember how old we were. We couldn't be more than like, this was like middle school maybe. So maybe from like 3rd or 4th grade until like 7th or 8th grade maybe.
Yeah.
But my dad is very much so, he's very, he's not an overbearing parent at all. Like he's like, especially when I wasn't, when I was playing a sport that he wasn't coached, like he's just gonna sit in the stands and not say a whole thing for the entire year. Wow. And like just like watch quietly. Even if he played the sport, even if he played at like a certain level, like if he wants to coach, like he'll go and coach the team. But he was a very like laid back parent in that sense. And so that's why I was saying that like it must have taken a certain amount of restraint, because I know like when you know something and like you're a kid, I'd imagine you want to impart as much knowledge as possible. And he did that in ways, but it would be like at home or it would be like practicing. Yeah. And so I guess that's similar to the work books and stuff. But yeah, I definitely didn't like I guess I had a similar experience to you, where it was just, you know, your parents kind of have to find a way to like play a role and like just add to the experience, even if they can't control it in ways. And I think that's what happened for me.
Yeah, like my mom, that's actually very similar. I was going to say the workbooks thing was, I guess, her way of having her input in our education, because even, that was in the summer, but like, she would also like put us in, so Essex County College has like these Saturday programs, so like you can do different things, like from karate to art to like math like stuff. It can be enrichment or like math like tutorials, different things like that, or ELA or creative writing. So like she would put us in that too throughout the year. And then on top of that, like we had a minivan growing up, so she would always like play educational films and movies and stuff in there. So in the minivan. Oh heck yeah! So all that Leapfrog stuff, like
Leapfrog was
nice.
Tag.
I know all them guys. Those are my homies from way back. So she would do that, and like we weren't allowed to, we were like a very like anti-Disney household growing up. Like
anti-Disney.
Oh, very much so.
I used to abuse Disney Channel.
Really?
Like I abused Disney Channel like you abuse Grey's Anatomy.
Stop! I'm screaming. Yeah, we would sneak. This is what we would do. We were such smart kids. We're so bad, so bad. So we had a TV. This is like when we got older. So and my sisters lived upstairs in like our attic floor. Okay. Had like it was like almost like a loft space, and it was enough for like 3 different beds. It was just a really big space. And my brother lived downstairs, so we had a TV upstairs. We would literally turn the channel to Disney Channel, and on the remote you used to be able to click last. So we would go last, and it would go to the last channel. So we would always have to program it. So because my mom would come out and check and be like, "What are you guys watching up there?" Yeah. And we would change the channel real quick. When she learned there was a last button, she went back last. She saw Disney Channel. She was like, "Y'all are such liars." So we had to figure out, okay, how do we have to type in the channel numbers fast. So it had to be like maybe PBS was 23, channel 23, right? So we would be like, okay, we're watching Disney Channel, what, 55, 56, whatever it was. Channel 56, right? My mom comes in, okay, 23. Then we go back again and be like, what's another channel? We can do 45, and then go back to 3 PS. Literally, it was so bad.
Man.
So that was us. We were also, so this is how it went. Cartoon Network, it was like, don't even ask. Cartoon Network was just, don't even touch that.
Mm-hmm.
Then
poison
for the brain. Like literally, do coke would be better. Like then Disney was like a no. That was like a hard no. But there were times like when we were younger, we could like beg and plead like a holiday or whatever, a day off from school or whatever. She might let it slide. Nick was kind of like, She didn't really like Nick either. Like especially like SpongeBob. She thought SpongeBob was stupid. She didn't want us to watch any of that stuff. But, like, if we watched Nick and she caught us, she would be like, turn it off now. Like, but, like, we would get whooped for Disney. Like, Disney was just disrespectful. And she was like, she would always be like, Walt Disney's a racist. Like, so that was a whole other thing. Okay. But I was like, that's an opinion. But, so that was pretty much it. And then but then with movies and stuff, we could watch whatever we wanted. Really? Like, literally, there was, like, only one movie my mom was like, don't watch this movie yet. Like, you're too young. Everything else, I used to watch, like, R-rated comedies. I think that's why I, like, really got into TV, because I would watch more adult shows, like, meant for older kids or adults, like Gilmore Girls, or, like, I don't know, Charmed, old school stuff, like, and then I kind of, like, allowed myself to, like, see how adults work and how they think and, like, how they, like, and now I'm realizing, like, nobody knows anything. Like, we're all just lost.
Right.
But, yeah.
That's really interesting.
I think I'm going to do the same thing with my kids, honestly.
Not what? Like, let them watch shows that are...
Yeah. I'm either going to go one or two ways. Like, just a no TV at all sort of approach, depending on how bad media and social media gets. Like, if it continues to be like this, damaging, and there's like it's just everywhere, I probably would just not have a TV in the house. Kind of also want to raise my kids like in the woods somewhere, like remote.
Remote?
Yeah, not in the woods maybe, but like maybe on a farm somewhere. And then I want them to like discover TV at like 18 and be like, oh my God, do you know there's this thing called, like, Netflix?
Right.
Or the other approach is that, like, I just let them watch whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, my mom literally would, like, to make sure, like, we didn't have, like, end up in teen pregnancy or anything, she would make us watch Teen Mom. She'd be like, what are you doing? She'd be like, Lauryn, come here. I'm like, what? She's like, come here. I'm like, okay, yes. And she'd be like, watch this. And I was like, what is this? She's like, just watch it. And it'd be like, Teen Mom, 16 and pregnant, like, and these girls would be going through it. I'm like, and then you get drawn into it. You're like, wait, so what's her deal? What happened with the boyfriend? Why did he leave? And the poor baby's just sitting there and nobody's feeding it. Why does the baby live with the grandma? I'm like, yo, this is smart. This is smart parenting.
There's so many ways to, like, raise a kid.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no recipe to success. I guess that's true for all of life, though.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a right way to do anything.
Your kid's already gonna come out damaged. That's just gonna be like they're gonna grow up with some issues, even if you're the perfect parent.
Yeah.
You know, but it's about like how can you give them the best skills, the best tools they need to survive and thrive. So even when they start to work through their trauma, hopefully that is the goal, that they work through whatever childhood trauma that they do have. Because a lot of adults don't do that, you know? Like, a lot of people just never learn to admit that they have trauma or admit that they need to work through it. They want to sink in it and, like, sulk in it, and that, to me, is not healthy.
It's comfortable sometimes for people because you have an excuse.
Exactly.
Like,
it's a crutch.
Yeah.
And then also, they're like, oh, it's because of how my parents... But, like, okay, but, like, you're 45. Get over it, you know?
Yeah. We can do the work on ourselves.
I know. Hold on, this is my mom calling me now. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello? Hi. Good. Yeah, I'm filming something with Max. Well, I'm home now. What time are you going to come? Okay. All right, bye. Bye. Yeah. So, I don't know. I want to have a brood of kids. I know that. A whole, like, I want one of those, like, Sprinter vans. You know those Sprinter vans? Pack up every row with kids. Just have a whole team. Football team, baseball team. Not a football team. That's like 11 kids. That's crazy.
Yeah. A basketball team is cool.
Between basketball and baseball is my goal.
Starting five.
Starting five.
So
I need a 6-man maybe.
Yeah.
I would be satisfied with 6 kids. I think that would be fine. I'm 1 of 4. I think that would be accurate. I wish I had like another like brother. That would be nice.
Yeah. And when I was thinking about this, like earlier, the first question that came to mind that I wanted to. Oh really? Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, Kennedy? That's the wrong person. Sorry. No, that's Kennedy. They sound the same.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, do you think our lives are predetermined?
I think that, like, there's a plan for our lives. Like, I believe that God has a plan for each and every one of us. But I think that it's up to us to pursue that plan. Like, you have to walk in the purpose that you are made for. Like, I don't believe that people don't have a purpose. Like, I believe every single individual has a very distinct and unique purpose to them for being here. But I feel like there are people that don't fulfill their purposes in their lifetime for multiple reasons, you know? So, but yeah.
But in terms of, like, individual moments, so, like, what came to mind for me was how we happened to be in the same dorm freshman year. And then we happened to have grown up, like, 15 minutes away from each other. And then our birthdays happened to be a day apart from each other. I was like, do you think that, like, at birth, something was written down where Lauryn and Max are going to meet in college? Or is that just happenstance and it's random?
No, I like to think that there's no coincidences.
Okay.
I think that everything happens for a reason. And I think about that. One of those are the first thing that I think about. And I also, it's funny because I have very good discernment. It's like one of my like gifts that I think that I've been given. And through that, I can, upon meeting someone for the first time, I can tell if they're going to be a significant part of my life.
Okay.
Or like, and you were one of those people where like, wow, like I remember meeting you for the first time and being like, that's crazy. And in my, like, I didn't know how or in what capacity, but I'm like, oh, he's not going to be a friend that's just going to be like, I met him in college type of friend, like, acquaintance or whatever. Like, I didn't know how. I didn't know that you were going to go on the LA trip. You were also in my film 101 class freshman year. Remember that? That film 1 class.
Yeah.
I thought about that too. And I'm like, dang, that's crazy. I have a few friends that comes to mind for, you know, I'm like, wow, when you think about how we met, it could have been a very random, like, thing. Because I don't really talk to anybody else on my floor besides you and Wendy. I text her every now and then, but, like, that's crazy to me. Yeah. You know? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I'd like to think we have agency, because when I hear that, that makes me feel sometimes like we don't have agency in our lives, and like, well, I'm just living out a play that someone wrote, so, you know, everything I don't necessarily have a say in certain actions, even though it feels I do, but that may be taking it too far.
Yeah.
I do think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's predetermined. So.
But if it happens, what's the reason then? If it's not predetermined?
Just to put something in your life that you have to react to. So like say like take death for example. Like death can like break someone down or it can uplift someone. Yeah. And like that can go either way in any case. But it may have happened to have to incite that action in a person. But it's interesting. I mean, you know, like, does free will exist? I think that's where like my mind goes sometimes when I think of stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with pretty much all of that. I don't think things are predetermined in the sense of like, not everything I don't think is predetermined. Like, this is going to happen regardless, you know? Right. But I think that you are given a choice. Like, for example, it could have been something where, like, we met and I decided I'm not going to apply to the LA program, even though something in me tells me to apply there, you know, or whatever, you know, because I feel like that's how we got on a deeper level in our friendship, like just getting to know each other beyond like seeing each other in the halls on dorm.
Right.
But I also think that we have like, I don't know, like I feel like there are times where there are things that are going to happen regardless. This is what I think. I think that if it doesn't happen, like let's say like this is something that's supposed to happen, right? Like us meeting. I think that whatever the reason is for us meeting, if we choose not to meet, right? Like let's say I just didn't go to that dorm meeting or whatever, right? Or I didn't apply to the LLC. I think that you meet somebody else or you meet some, like I just think a different thing happens as a result. Like it just, to me it sounds like a Marvel movie, but it's like you just open up a different timeline, you know, or a different storyline. That is kind of like what I'm thinking of, but it's not, it doesn't, that's why I don't think everything is predetermined, because predetermined means that we're going to meet regardless. We have no say in it, you know? So I think we had a choice and we chose the same thing. Now the thing about the birthday, that's kind of crazy. Like I don't, that's random. Like that's what I mean by no coincidence. That's there for a reason. I don't know why, but I've never met anybody with a birthday that close to mine that is in my friend group or like potentially in my friend group. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the nickname Lank? And also, you were talking about like things that challenge you earlier, and I kind of want to, I'm just curious about your experience in film nowadays, and like how does film challenge you?
Well, Lank is a nickname that I guess, I mean, I never saw it as a nickname, but you kind of call me it, so it is a nickname.
Well, you've co-opted it as Lanky Lankers.
Yeah, that is true. That was just, I just needed an Instagram handle, and Link was taken to my bewilderment. But I'm like, who would else have my name? Yeah, so I just chose Linky Lankers. It is cool. I think I like that more than my current handle. But yeah, it's just it's my vibe. That's who I am. It's me. I like that not everyone calls it to me. You know, calls me that. So that makes me happy. So if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. It's okay. Right. When I was in high school, everybody used to call me Kingle.
Kingle?
Mm-hmm. Kingl, because all of our emails were our last name with our first initial at the end. So, like, teachers, students all had the same formula for email. Right. So, our theater director, she would call some of us that had unique handles like that, like Link or Kingle or whatever, that nickname. And so all of my theater friends called me Kingle, like, which became like pretty much all of my high school friends. So some of them still call me Kingle. Jody knows that. That's kind of funny. So she calls me that sometimes. But yeah, I like nicknames. I like to have nicknames, and I like to associate. I like when certain people only associate me with certain nicknames. Okay. You know? Yeah. It's like, wow, they know me on a different level, you know?
Especially, yeah.
And I think that in terms of film, nowadays I'm challenged, one, because like with work, you just have to make the time and the commitment to it. So that's one way. Like I'm still trying to do that now with writing. I met somebody yesterday that is working on a short film, and they like proposed an idea of like having me help write on it. So that's fun. But I think in general, just like what it's recently been in the last year or so is like writing for other people and creating films for other people, which I never really imagined myself doing. I kind of came into my love for film from telling my own stories, and stories that I think that resonate with me and that spur from my own experiences or experiences of those that I know. So now that like I've done work for other people, like written short stories or content and filmed it and directed it, I'm like, wow, I could kind of see myself like doing that. And it's not as fulfilling as doing like my own personal projects. Right. But it gives me a sense of like, wow, like I'm actually capable of this, and I'm actually really good at it. And especially now that like I'm also like taking more of a active role in directing and like really adding that to like my repertoire of like what I'm good at when it comes to filmmaking. I'm like, I can't just call myself a writer now and like be like kind of a director. I'm like, no, I'm actually like I've directed pretty good stuff. So like becoming more confident in like that and labeling myself as who I am is like something that is challenging me like now. And I think like going forward, like I would really love to get into like shooting and like even becoming my own DP. I think that's the next phase is like, okay, seriously taking a look at like what it means to like handle the camera.
Right.
And like seeing you do like what you're doing right now is like giving me a lot of confidence because I'm like, wow, like
I don't know a damn thing.
but like it's good. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, this is beautiful, you know, and you're like saying all these terms, I'm like, yeah, I know what that means. I'm like, I went to film school. But yeah, so I think those are the big things right now that I'm like, this is where I want to get to. Like I want to be able to like in 2024 like make a fully fledged short film that's like my own baby, which I haven't done in a while. Like everything that I've done has been written by me or like, you know, directed by me, but it's not for me, you know? I think I'm ready to do that thing that's for me again, you know. But it starts with commitment and prioritization. So, yeah.
It's interesting what you say about claiming those titles for yourself because I also have a tendency to do this. We think that like the thing that we want to do is some far off thing that like we're not capable of or we don't know enough about. And then you go and talk to those people and they're like, it's not even that serious. Like I just went on the internet and looked this up and you're like,
literally.
No, but you did this and like, no, not really. And you're like, oh man, okay, maybe I was just like inflating it to this extra thing and it really isn't that, you know? Nothing is that extreme. Nothing is that extravagant.
That's what I mean about being an adult now. I'm like looking at it with a different lens of like, they actually don't know. They don't have it figured out. But like, I mean, it turned out great. Their life looks okay, but like, nobody's really better than anybody else. Like, yeah, you have some people that are really skilled and gifted in a certain area, but like, in all honesty, like, we're all still learning and trying to figure it out. And like, I think that is a main motivator and encourager for me. Like, when I think about, like, there are things that you're good at that like I see, but you don't see. And there are probably things that I'm good at that you see that I don't even recognize in myself, you know? So telling myself that, like, I'm actually capable. Like, you're actually well skilled in this way, you know? So I think that also helps us, like, get out of, like, it helps me get out of my head in terms when I start thinking about, like, people that have done all these crazy things. They're like, no, actually, it wasn't that crazy.
It wasn't that extravagant.
I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you have a point. So, but yeah. What's been challenging you lately?
What has been challenging me? That's a good question. I would say my own expectations of myself. And so now I'm starting to challenge those expectations. Because you grow up and you have all these big dreams and whatnot, and then you see other people, like, they start fulfilling certain dreams and whatnot, and so you start to get older, and comparison was always a big part of my life, and I struggle with that at times. And so I think a big challenge is just, I really want to get to a point where I live for myself.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm moving towards, like, not being ignorant and not being aware, but just being able to live in my own bubble where as long as I'm satisfied, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to like retune and rewire my brain to be more self-centered, to be more selfish in ways when it comes to me.
Yeah.
I think that's been my biggest challenge, and also not having to be anything.
Yeah.
When I got let go from my job like last May. And immediately, like, it chips away a part of your ego, because it's like when I'm out in public, I can't say like I do with this thing, and I don't, and now I don't have anything to say at all. And I remember someone asked me that, like, what do you do? And I was like, you know what? Honestly, like, I just wake up every day and live. Like, I just wake up and be a human being every day.
That's so good.
And now, even when I get a job, like, that'll still be my answer. Like, I just wake up every day and try and figure it out.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot to get to the point to be able to be okay saying that, and not, and even if you are judged, not feeling a way about it, because that's part of it. Like, we feel this tendency to want to do, and like, you don't have to do anything.
That's so true. So that hit hard. I'm like, I remember feeling that way, like, all of last year into this year, like, especially when I was babysitting and stuff. And I'm like, all these friends that, like, because also for me, my friends from high school who live in this area, they're like a year ahead of me in terms of class, because I had to reclass because of boarding school and stuff. I mean, not boarding school, because of my gap year. So, like, I feel already like this insecurity, like I haven't started anything, and I see them like in grad school or like in jobs and stuff like that when I am just getting out of college. And then now I'm like, my day to day is like taking care of an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, you know, on the Upper East Side. But like, you know, I think that I started to gain that confidence that by just being open and being like, you know what, it is what it is. Like, it took a long time. Like, I remember going back to my school and like people be like, so what's going on? I'm like, I'm applying to grad school, which I was, you know. I was just like, but I was like, oh, I'm going to this school. Like, I was like saying it like it was like an actual like guaranteed thing, and it was very much like the application is still like being reviewed, and I was just like, man, why is this such an insecurity? And it's funny too, because the people that I did tell, I was like, oh yeah, like I nanny these kids, they would be like, oh my God, me too. Or like, oh my gosh, like that's cool. Like, what do you do? Like, is it fun? Like, you probably like have like a really great schedule. Like, get to eat, like they like probably feed you really well. Like all these things. I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe that's a good way of looking at it, you know? Yeah. But like, there's definitely the comparison thing, you know? Especially when I see like, I was like, dang, like, it's like you had a job. I was like, man, I don't have anything. Like, some of my other friends had jobs, or like weren't like back home. They were like living in LA or just different doing like, and also I'm watching it through the lens of social media for the most part too, which is not helpful because it doesn't paint an accurate picture of what's actually going on. Right. So I think that like social media is the devil. No, I'm joking, but it can be very toxic though, you know, right? Yeah. Like it's really bad. So I think I'm just trying to like be like, okay, Lauryn, am I satisfying myself today? Am I satisfying my own goals? And like, even sometimes like I'm seeing people do things that I'm like, I don't even want that, but like, why am I getting jealous about it? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, or like, why do I feel insecure that they have that and that's not even the path that I'm going on? Yeah. So I have to try to remember that. It's hard though. It really is hard. Even after like you get over, you do the therapy, you do the work, you do the self like searching and telling yourself like, oh, comparison is not a thing you should attain or like want to attain or like live for. But even after you have that concept in your brain, like you still don't, like you still think about it, like you still have that desire to want to be like those people. Yeah. That chicken looking good.
Yeah, societal pull is strong.
I forgot to put the time in there. But yeah.
I would say my first week of unemployment was a revelation. Because I was in the movie theater at the matinee at like 12 p.m.
That's beautiful.
Like, oh.
Dude, I'm not going to wish for unemployment, but I want to have that freedom of like, just have a day to yourself. Like, you don't know what, oh God, that's hot. You don't know what you're doing specifically on that day, you know? Right. But like, you also, the world is your oyster. Like, even like creatively, I think that's the beauty of like being in a creative industry. If that's what you're, like, if that's the job that someone has, like, there are some jobs that allow you to like roam around at Wednesday at like 9 p.m., right. 9 a.m., you know? So I kind of want to experienced that. Like, I've never, like, been unemployed in the sense of, like, beyond, like, school and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, I don't want to say, like, unemployment and that comes. So that's not what I'm wishing for. But at the same time, I want the freedom to be like, I don't have to work today. Like, we were just talking about that. Like, why do we have to work? Right. Like, who came up with the concept of the 9 to 5? The unions? Like, we don't want that. That's crazy.
Not at all.
Especially a 9 to 5 that is really like an 8 to 6 or an 8 to 7 or an 8 to 12, depending on how you put it. But yeah, so I don't know. My goal is to just do what I can. And also to be like, it's okay if I'm not doing anything right now. Yeah. It's okay to be doing nothing. It's okay to have a lazy season. Yeah. Notice I said not day, not week, not season. A lazy season. Yeah. It's okay, especially if you've been grinding, especially if you've been doing this for so long. I have to realize that with myself. Like, take your lazy season. Be yourself. So.
I just sit still sometimes.
Who are you living for?
Yeah. Where?
I love that.
I think that's good.
You think it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was good.
I like this. I like talking to you.
Yeah.
Reminding me of our dining hall days.
It worked out.
Hey, we did it. I'm excited.
And cut. I'm the director.
She said I'm the director. I'm screaming.